Today I'm sharing how this curb shop mailbox gets turned into a DIY spring planter. This mailbox has been waiting over 12 years for its makeover, and I got to try a brand new color on it. I love testing colors before I use them on large furniture pieces. So I'm going to share how it all turned out. Let's get started. Here's the curbside mailbox I started with, and this is a reenactment because I recently cleaned out my garage and there were a few pieces I held on to upcycle, this salvaged mailbox being one of them. So this curb shop mailbox has been waiting patiently, I would say, for at least 12 years for its new makeover. I'm trying out a brand new Southern Collection color called Thicket, and I really like trying out a brand new color on a smaller project. Then I can decide if I want to order more and decide if I want to use it on a very large piece of furniture. So this is a great way to test new colors. So I started prepping this piece by gloving up, and I removed the top and the backboard, which was attached with nails. Because everything was so old and it's been sitting around for so many years, there were rusty nails and definitely rusty screws as well, so it took a little bit of finagling. There were also some screw heads that had already been stripped, so I took a pair of pliers and manually removed them. To remove the top off the mailbox, I had to unscrew this piano hinge, and a lot of the screws were very rusty. Some had been stripped, so I also used a manual screwdriver to unscrew some of them as well. Now, this mailbox was filthy when I picked it up years ago. I didn't touch it. I just put it in storage, and it's been sitting there ever since. So it was really filthy and grimy. So I started by using an automotive sponge and some white lightning and gave everything a really good wipe down. I wiped down and rinsed the sponge and wiped down again, probably a good 3 times. And then finally I busted out the scrubby soap because it still looked grimy. I love this soap. It's infused in a scrubby brush. I don't know how else to explain it, but this soap works wonders. I use it to clean my paint brushes, and recently I've started using it to get out really hard dirt on furniture. So long as you wipe the residue off afterwards, it's just fine. It also cleans my paint sink nice and sparkly, so it has multiple uses. It's a great thing to have in your workshop. To get into all the crevices, I used a Javex scrubby brush or scouring brush just to make sure I got all that dirt that was hiding in all those little nooks and crannies. And to finish it off, I took some Lysol wipes and I disinfected the entire mailbox as well. Woo! For a small piece, that was quite the clean job. It took me quite a while. Once everything was all dry, I brought out my all-purpose putty, a paper plate, and the hardener, and I mixed up a small amount so I could fill in all the holes that needed filling. I like mixing my Bondo in small batches so I don't waste anything. It does dry very, very quickly. That's the beauty of using Bondo. It dries super hard and very fast. So mixing smaller amounts rather than one large batch, it will save you a lot of wasted product. I went ahead and filled in those large nail holes that were holding in the board at the back. The 2 bottom holes on the bottom of this box I left. I did not fill in because that's good drainage, because I knew I was going to be putting plants in here. I also filled in all the tiny holes where the piano hinge was. And this is slightly out of order because my Bondo had not yet 100% dried. However, I just knew I wanted to get a coat of primer on this ASAP because I figured there was probably going to be a lot of staining and an extra coat of primer could not hurt. So I went ahead and added Bonding Boss everywhere where the Bondo was not. I like using a roller to apply the primer or these synthetic chip brushes. It applies the Bonding Boss very, very nicely. And both synthetic chip brush and the roller are very inexpensive to purchase. So I let that dry all day, actually. I ended up coming back down in the evening and sanding the box nice and smooth, especially focusing on the Bondo that I used to fill in all those holes. Once everything was sanded perfectly smooth, I brought it back into my paint room and applied another coat of Bonding Boss primer and let it dry overnight. The next morning I came back down and I picked this Thicket Chalk Mineral Paint, which is part of a new Southern Roots collection from Dixie Belle. If you guys had joined me for the Peter Rabbit magazine table, that curb shop table I did a couple of weeks ago, that I tried the olive wood and the magnolia, and I loved those colors, and they went really, really well together. So I was actually excited to try using this earthy green. I gave it a really good mixing and then using an oval brush started painting the box in this lovely color. As I mentioned in the intro, I really like trying new colors out on smaller projects. I don't like grabbing a new color and just going gung-ho on a large piece of furniture because I'm just not comfortable with it. I like seeing what it looks like after it's dried and top coated, and it gives me a much better idea of what type of furniture I'd want to use it on and what style. So if you're ever on the fence about whether you should use a specific color or a specific brand on a piece of furniture that you're thinking of making over, I highly suggest grabbing a small project for yourself and giving it a test run. It's a fabulous way to pick and choose what colors you do want to use for your furniture makeovers. The oval brush was doing an awesome job at getting on all the flat, larger areas of this box. However, to get into all the crevices and the details, I swapped out to an artist brush. And over the years, I've learned to use the appropriate size brush for the size and or detail of the surface being painted. I'm not gonna lie, I still sometimes roll my eyes when I have to go and grab another brush because I like to keep all cleanup to a minimum. And sometimes it's extra brushes that you do need to clean. However, it makes all the difference in the paint finish. So if you require another size brush to get right in there for your projects, I highly recommend that you use the appropriate size brush for what you're working on. Chalk mineral paint dries very, very quickly. So 3 hours I came back downstairs and I applied the second coat of paint. But this is a really good view of what the first coverage looked like. You can see underneath that it definitely required another I thought maybe it would even require 3 coats, but 2 coats was perfect coverage. You may have noticed that I primed, and here I'm painting right over that existing design that was on the old mailbox. And it really reminded me of something from the 90s. It probably was from the 90s, actually. I did not like the design on here. So to cover up the existing design, I did prime it and I painted it. Then when everything dried, I used this Moorish tile rice decoupage paper. I love using these designs. They are super inexpensive. You can get them maybe $5, $6. They can be used on multiple projects if you cut them up and use them in pieces rather than the full sheet. And they are very, very easy and simple to apply. After looking at the design, I cut out the 3 tiles I wanted on the front of this box. Then using a satin top coat, I applied a layer onto the front of the box, smoothed it out nicely. Then I grabbed the decoupage rice paper and I applied it right on top and dead center of the old design. Then taking my brush, I smoothed out any tiny little bubbles that I had. And then taking my brush, I applied an additional coat of the satin top coat on top of it. And that's all you need to adhere these. They are going to be really, really stuck on well. Once the weather gets warmer, I'm planning on having this planter box out in my yard to display some flowers or herbs. I'm not sure what I'm going to plant in it just yet. And I will see how well this paint, top coat, and the decoupage paper holds up in the elements. So I'm actually kind of curious myself. But for indoors, I know that this will last for years. For outdoors, I don't know. I'm going to have to get back to you on that. So once your decoupage paper is put on, you can add as many coats of top coat as you'd like. I recommend 3. However, you can do more, you can do less, that's up to you. But you do require the 1 additional coat over top of the decoupage paper so it does seal and hold on to your project. I went ahead and bought some spring flowers for staging and styling this DIY spring planter box. I poked some holes in a plastic liner I added to the bottom just so it has a little bit of drainage. I added a few spring flowers, the tulips and the hyacinth. And just as a reminder, here's the before. And here's the after. It looks so much cleaner and nicer than it did as a mailbox. Anna over on the SI blog had an awesome idea though. Why not take a planter and turn it into a mailbox? So do it the other way around. You guys are geniuses. I love the ideas you come up with. I hope you enjoyed today's curb shop makeover. Just goes to show you don't have to use something as it is. You can swap it and change it into something different. If you like today's video, please leave a like, hit that like button, leave a comment down below. I love reading your comments. I read every one of them. Also feel free to join me over on salvagedinspirations.com, where I have over 600 furniture painting and DIY decor tutorials. And be sure to sign up for that free email list where everything brand new gets sent right to your inbox. It's free to do. Until next project, have a fabulous week, guys. Bye.